Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your breakfast bankroll for Thursday, July 28th, 2022. Yes, the weekend is almost here. Yes, ECSI VIP MLB is, as Foreigner once sang, cold as ice. I think we sold our souls to the devil last weekend with our amazing weekend that we had, and on Sunday to close it out. And if I had Biff's almanac right now, I still couldn't pick a winner, but that's for another show. Our weekly trip across the border, generally on Wednesday at 1 o'clock, we pushed to Thursday morning. Both parties had some stuff that life gets busy. Let's just say that life gets busy. Always, always, always family first. And that's what we preach here. And that's what we stick to here. And we're blessed, obviously, to have our weekly guest here this morning. First and foremost, a shout out to Anthony Pepe, Sports Map Radio, the Diehards, was on Cape this week and reached out to me. And yesterday, myself and Anthony went live in Hyannis at the Cape Cod Resort Center, soon to be the new Irish Village, and did the show from 8 to 10. Had an absolute blast being his co-host, a legend who's been in these lanes for 2 decades, talking to some great people in our lanes, and I just had an absolute blast. So thank you, Pepe. As I said in the tweet, anytime you get over and cross that bridge, you better have me on speed dial. So without further ado, let's bring in the man, the myth, the legend himself, the one and only Mr. Andrew McInnis.
Good morning, Mr. Dawson.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing well. Sun is shining. Dog is healthier. He wasn't doing too well, but he's back at the house, and things are going well. And hey, like you said, it's almost Friday, so the weekend is kind of almost there. CFL has started, so to me, that kind of kicks the weekend off a little bit. Well, CFL starts tonight, and week 8. I mean, it feels like we just started breaking these down. I don't want to say that things are flying by too quickly. I've been trying to enjoy the summer. We still work hard, but wow, week 8 in the CFL, unbelievable stuff here. And happy to get this show done because there's going to be lots of line moves still to happen, I think. So hopefully we can be on the right side of those. How are things with you?
Things are doing okay. We're battling day by day, as I said in the intro. We had a weekend to remember. We had a 5-1 weekend, Friday, Saturday, on straight bets, and then Sunday put together our weekly action parlay, and we now do 3 mini parlays. All 3 came in 5 to 1, 6 to 1, and 9 to 1. So we basically end the weekend like plus 24 units if you played 1 unit on every play, and OFA this week in the MLB. OFA. So
MLB is a roller coaster, man. That's what I've been described. It's unbelievable because you can get hot. It's like a team. Handicappers. It's like a baseball team. You could be hitting the ball one week, and the next week you're not hitting the ball. It's unbelievable how things change very much. But do you handicap a specific series, or is it just all game by game? Are you somebody that projects like your plays the next day or the day after, or do you strictly wake up or the night before it's just day by day for you?
I'll say, Andrew, I do all the above.
Okay.
But I really single in, obviously, on the day-to-day. We'll get our opening numbers like around 6 o'clock or whenever they decide to roll them out for the night for the next day. So as we release the night's action and everyone's watching the games, we're already digging into tomorrow's schedule. So like I like to say, we got about 18 hours in of each card. But a perfect example that you're talking about, Monday we dive in, take a shot with the Rays. where we get egg on our face because the pesky Orioles, win
Mhm.
that game. Should have looked at the thought process because McClanahan was on the mound on Tuesday. So you figure a little more sense of urgency for the Rays. I mean, for the Orioles, of course. Hey, we better get Monday because we got to face McClanahan on Tuesday. Well, if you're using that approach, it didn't matter because the Orioles beat
Yeah.
McClanahan.
Well, I know a lot of people that like will make plays based off like a team not to get swept. And it like obviously that doesn't want to be like the sole reason why you're backing a team, but it's unbelievable how often that can happen, especially if it's a road team. Like you or sorry, home team, like you lose the first 2 games in a 3-game set. You're gonna give me a decent price on that team in game 3. It's funny because you don't like to look ahead too much, especially with baseball. I find that personally, I'm like you, like I look overnight quite a bit. I'm up in the dark hours of the night, releasing plays or do my research. But sometimes it's tempting to look ahead at a certain series or look ahead at when a certain pitcher is coming up next. Like as a Blue Jays fan, I'm saying, when's Manoah going to be on the mound next? When am I going to see this guy again? Give me him every night. This guy's a betting machine here.
Well, it's funny you say that because everyone that woke up yesterday morning was saying the same thing. The Dodgers aren't going to get swept by the Nationals, and obviously the Astros aren't going to get swept by the Oakland A's. Well, 1 out of 2 ain't bad. The Dodgers put up a touchdown in the first inning and put up a 6 spot against the Nationals. That was thanks for playing. And after the Astros go in and sweep Seattle, and then what happens? They get swept by the lowly A's. So, like you said, baseball is a day-to-day, series-to-series. We're getting closer to the trade deadline. Who's buying? Who's selling? Who's doing all that stuff? There's so much to take in. Sometimes it's almost an overload, Andrew.
Well, it really is, and it's hard sometimes to know when the letdown spots are going to appear. Like you can see the Astros beat the Yankees 10-4 one night, and the next night they can't beat the A's, not just once, but multiple times. The inconsistency of some of these teams. And for us, as you know, one of my main sports, of course, to handicap is hockey. And I'm not saying in baseball you don't give effort, but let's be honest here. They're not out there running around and exerting energy the whole entire time. So it's not like they didn't show up effort wise for this game. Obviously, you might just not show up, might not be all there. Hitting the ball didn't go very well, but it's tough to explain that some of these teams don't show up against lesser opponents. How can somebody literally say that they feel more confident if the A's were playing, I don't know, the Mets last night than if they were playing the Oakland or the Astros are playing? It doesn't make any sense to me. But sometimes there's just these letdown spots that we all have to be aware of in certain matchups. And it's kind of like with the Dodgers you mentioned yesterday. I mean, everybody was on them last night, but guess what? Everybody was also on them the day before that and the day before that as well. So if you were on the Dodgers all 3 games, you lost money, whether it was the run line or money line or whatever it might be. So sometimes it is kind of smart, though, if you kind of are on the sidelines for the first 2 games, then you could jump in on that last 3rd game.
And the hard part about baseball is sometimes, the bullpens are taxed, or basically in a nutshell, it's a 4-game series. And if you're playing a team like the Jays, like the Yankees, like the Dodgers with long offensive lineups, sometimes the pitcher has the ball and the manager says, "Hey, pal, I know you're struggling, but you got to get us 4 or 5 minutes. I don't care if you give up 8 or 9, because I am not blowing up my bullpen in game 1 of a 3 or 4 game series."
It makes a lot of sense, and every manager is different. That's what, through my years of handicapping baseball, and I used to do a lot of just first 5 for that exact reason that you're talking about. I've gotten back actually into doing more full game money lines, just making sure I'm watching the bullpen usage like you were saying. But some coaches and managers, they want to win every game, so they'll yank you right away. And some of them, like you said, they'll leave you out to dry. It's like the Patrick Waugh scenario. Hey, you're staying out there as long as we can keep you out there because we don't want to get anybody else's arms sore. It's like when they bring in an outfielder to pitch when the games they're losing by 10 runs. They're like, hey, you go ahead, you throw the ball. We don't want to, injure one of our actual pitchers. So it's definitely an interesting time post All-Star break as far as MLB. And for me, I'll say this has been one of those years where I have not specifically backed one or two teams. I don't think like multiple times. Like it's a mixed bag for me every single night, and I feel like that's helped me quite a bit with my MLB handicapping compared to last year, where I started the season in a big slump and ended on a good note. But this year, I could be on the A's one night, and the next night I could be on the Dodgers, and I could be on the Mets, and I could be on the Brew Crew. I'm all over the place, and as of right now, it's working out okay.
Shout out to our man Marty Lowe. Roll Tide, Marty. Your time of season is coming real soon. He asked the question, are the Reds trading Luis Castillo? The answer is yes. He has been tied with the Yankees. Perfect leading question to our co-host. He's not our guest. It's our co-host here, Andrew. Yankees grab Andrew Benintendi. They get a lefty bat, an all-star this year, someone that we gave away for Frenchie Cordero, who had 3 errors yesterday for my sinking Red Sox. And I'm just going to say this to you, Andrew. If I am the Jays, now at the deadline last year, they added Barrios. I'm going all in. I'm getting Castillo. If you're going to get and make a push in the playoffs here, it's an arms race, and I would beat the Yankees to Castillo.
They have to do something. I think that, even the team management and what I'm seeing from other fellow Blue Jays fans are you can't be scared to give up players in order to bring in guys like that. Juan Soto, Luis Castillo. I mean, you have to give up, whether it's picks, whether it's prospects, whether it's a guy like Bo Bichette, you have to be willing to give up something. These guys aren't going to just come on for free. I mean, these teams are not going to give them up for peanuts. And I think that we're going to find out over the next little while what the bargaining is like for a couple key guys like that. So I think they have to make a move. I think it's going to be super competitive. I think they make the playoffs, but what do they do once they get there is really the biggest thing to me and the biggest concern. And pitching was the thing that us as fans thought we shored up in the offseason, thought this might be our better year as, a pitching core. And unfortunately, the Blue Jays have still had to score 4, 5, or 6 runs in a game in order to win that game. And that will hurt you when it comes down to the postseason. I have to mention Benintendi. This isn't me getting into any, medical talk with you, Jeff, here. I'm just saying in general, how do you feel right now if you're a Kansas City Royal fan and when you were, going to Canada, he couldn't play because he couldn't get the vaccine. Oh, what's that? The Yankees are knocking on the door? Yeah, I'll get the shots. No problem. The Yankees? For sure. I mean, that just goes to show. Sure. Sure, it was his decision not to get the vaccine. I respect people's decisions. But the fact of the matter is, it wasn't because he didn't want to necessarily. It's because he didn't have to playing for the Royals. And now he has a verbal agreement with the Yankees that he'll get the vaccine because of the amount of times they'll go to Canada and play the Blue Jays. Yikes. That's got to sting if you're a Royals fan.
And I have to go back to April and May when the tide really turned for the Red Sox. We had a couple people, Chris Sale, who was still hurt, Tanner Houck, and a couple other players that couldn't go to Toronto for that first series. And what did the Red Sox do? They take Whitlock out of the bullpen and turn him into a starter, which just decimated the bullpen. And as he was lights out back there, number one. Number two, as a starter, he sucked. And number three, then he gets hurt. And so you are 100% spot on. But the fact of the matter is that the Yankees play in Toronto in September, and Andrew has already made it very, very clear. I'll be there. Don't you worry about it. And we were dagger and Sale on his rehabs. Are you going to be ready in August and September when, the Sox go back to Toronto, and he just didn't want to talk about it. So again, it's everyone's option, and but you're part of a team, and when you put yourself in front of the team because of you don't want to get the shot, well, I know as a Red Sox fan, those people that were, I'm going to use the word selfish and trying to make a point, well, you kind of sort of ruined the season.
Well, I mean, you look at a guy like Andrew Wiggins, fellow Canadian. He breakout year, or at least breakout playoffs. Probably met the expectations that were given for him when he first got drafted for the first time. I'd say this year with the Golden State Warriors, he was somebody that was opposed to it, didn't want to get it, ends up getting the shots, playing with the Golden State Warriors, and look at what happens with him. Albeit at the end of the season, he did say, you know what, we won the championship. I'm still not too happy I had to get it, yada, yada, yada. But you know what? Career-wise, dollar figure-wise, and success for that team, you want to tell me he would take away that championship he just won for having to get the vaccine? I don't think so. So, to be very clear, we're not talking about the goods and bads of the vaccine here. We're talking about what it benefits for a team. And yeah, I mean, I think I've talked about it with you, but I got to ask you more about the radio in Boston, because I've heard even a buddy of mine that lives there. He's not a huge baseball guy, but he told me every news outlet was just ripping those guys apart and the relievers that weren't vaccinated when they were in Toronto. I gotta say real quick, I'm happy about that, Jeff, because Canada's gotten quite ripped on about our rules. So I'm a little bit surprised the Boston media didn't just make fun of Canada. So I'm happy they chose the route of going after the players.
No, and it was clearly stated, if and when we head over to Toronto, if you're not vaxxed, you're not playing. And so the start of the year, which, there was a lockout. And so everything was pushed back, gave them more opportunities. So I think some of the players that weren't vaxxed, that knew they were going there in, early April or May, were just prolonging it, because as your team got long in the tooth for the season, as you saw that, hey, we're playing back there in August and September. And oh, by the way, we're playing for the playoffs. We're playing for the division. Yeah, I made a statement in April and May. Okay, we somehow survived, but now it's more selfishness. I got to take the team approach, and as Benintendi's did. All right, hey, thanks, guys. I'm ready. I want to go win a ring. And by the way, don't worry about it. I'm vaxxed. I will be vaxxed.
It's gonna. What do you think about the people that complain that all the free agents and all the big names go to the same teams? What do you say to those people? Because I'm someone that, and I grew up an NBA fan as well, but I've was always someone to say, 5, 6, 7 years ago, wasn't it Cleveland and Golden State every single year in the finals, or somewhat like that? And now in the MLB, the Dodgers, they get the big name signings, the Yankees, Mets, even, all these teams that get these big names. It's pretty predictable. When's the last time you heard of the Oakland A's signing a big free agent, right? And that obviously, I know the cap hits, salary cap, all that stuff is different in baseball, but what do we tell those people that are saying, man, I just wish there was a better chance for some of these underdogs and long shots? What can we really tell them if all the big signings are going to the same teams every year?
It's a business.
Yeah.
It's a business. So Toronto, with your cable deal, is like the Dodgers, meaning you can cut checks. You're making money hand over fist. These, the Dodgers, they don't care about the salary cap. They don't care about the luxury tax. Look at the Golden State Warriors. I think they cut like a $200-300 million check. They didn't care. They won the championship. The Oakland A's made it clear we're selling off the whole team. They played a season, and they're playing a season, and they told their fans, there was 2,700 fans in the home stadium to start the year. So I don't want to say the rich get richer, but especially in baseball, there has been small market teams that have been successful. I mean, look at the Rays. They can
Yeah.
bring up these prospects and they keep them till it's time to pay them. And now
Right.
we got Bloom in charge, who comes from the Rays. We have management coming from the Rays. We look like the Rays now. Look at us with Bogarts. Look at us with Devers. JD's walking this year. After this year, Eovaldi's walking this year, and the Red Sox don't want to go all in and become sellers because come late August and September, when the Patriots are playing, there's going to be no fannies in the stands. That means there's no hot dog sales, there's no beer sales, and so they're kind of rocking a hard place. And as I talked with Matt from 98.5 last night on the radio, and I said to him, I think they're going to do the same thing that they did last year. We needed a first baseman. Anthony Rizzo laughed because he knew for a fact he was coming to Boston. He ends up being a Yankee. We still don't have a first baseman.
Yeah.
There are so many holes there that the certain teams are rocking a hard place. So the Dodgers are being linked to Castillo. Can you imagine the Dodgers adding Castillo? I mean, Jesus, the Mets take both games from the Yankees. Now all of a sudden people are starting to say, shit, DeGrom's coming back next week. Max is Max. I mean, they're now linked to Bogarts. So the teams that are going to be the most active are the teams that we're going to be talking about in October.
I mean, like you said, it's a business, and that's what it is. And those teams make it clear. And I guess we shouldn't be surprised at this point. And you mentioned the Blue Jays, and I'll just say one thing kind of cool, I guess, about them is so their ownership is MLSE, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. So it's not one group of guys or a guy or two that owns the Toronto Blue Jays. The same people that own the Toronto Blue Jays own the Toronto Maple Leafs, own Toronto FC. It is an ownership group that pretty much runs Toronto sports, and it's called Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment. It should be called Toronto Sports Entertainment because they pretty much own everything. So, my buddy Carmine always jokes that when he's at the Blue Jays games drinking those $15 beers, he's paying for John Tavares's, overpaid contract, right? Because it's all connected, so to speak. But they've got the money to spend, and it definitely is kind of because of that ownership group they have. But MLB playoff time is some of my favorite playoffs. I can't wait for the stretch. I can't wait for September following everything, and hopefully it's really entertaining.
Before we break down the CFL with the 4 games here, I just got to ask you a question. We'll go back a week because you are the NHL guru. I know everyone thinks, holy shit, what the hell were they thinking? A Florida team that, would score 5 or 6 goals with their eyes closed. They'll give you the 3-0 lead and let you feel like the game's over. And then you went to the bathroom, you made yourself a couple sandwiches, you grabbed yourself a cold one, you sit down, and it's 3-3. Now they bring in Kachuk. They gave up a lot. What do you think?
Initial reaction was, what the hell are they smoking over in Florida? But, you start to read it and you realize, I'll be the first to admit it, just like many other people. I didn't realize the contracts were expiring, which obviously they're not going to make that clear right away when they tweet out all the trades and stuff. But, the guys, when I saw that, I said there has to be something up. And obviously it was both those contracts expired the next season. But when you even look at the prospect they got, I've heard it's a great prospect. So, and a pick. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that went into it. And Mackenzie Weegar, I actually got to watch and cover that team for a short period of time, but I watched him play for the Halifax Mooseheads in his junior hockey career. And the fact of the matter is, he actually has a really cool story for him, Jeff. He was just a junior A player, ended up getting signed by Halifax, and that team just took off the second year of his career playing junior. And he ended up being a stable defenseman on the team that had Nathan McKinnon and Jonathan Drouin and those guys. So he's a great defenseman, a good two-way guy. You throw in Jonathan Huberdeau, it sounds like he was shocked. I was watching a podcast last night with Alan Walsh, his agent. Apparently at the draft, Alan Walsh had a meeting with Florida's management, and they said, yeah, wait till the deadline's over a little bit, free agency settles in, we'll sign a contract with you. And the fact is, he got a call on Friday at 11 p.m. saying, you getting traded? I mean, this guy's got Bugattis, Ferraris, and now he's going to be driving, trucks and Hummers, probably getting around the Alberta weather. But look, I think that the trade all depends on if they can get one of them to sign next year. That's really the big thing. But as far as this next season, man, if their numbers aren't too inflated, I can't wait to bet on Calgary. I can't wait. And good for them. Good for Jim Treliving, not Jim Treliving, Mark Treliving, I believe it is. His son, Jim Treliving, is the investor. But good for him for going out and getting those players and making that trade, Jeff, I think, because you just watched Johnny Gaudreau say, I don't want to be here pretty much. I'm going to Columbus, which shook the world. And then, of course, Tkachuk says, hey, by the way, I'm out of here too. So honestly, good for him for making a splash. And in the media, he said, I'm tired of what people are saying about our organization. I have heard they have kind of a subpar hockey rink. And let's be honest, I mean, as much as they have great fans, Calgary in the winter, I've heard it's not really a fun place to be. In the summer, one of the most beautiful places in Canada, that part of Alberta. But, here's the thing. What you said there about Florida and the fact that they could score 4 goals and still lose a game and that kind of stuff, I get it. You've heard me preach that several times. What it takes to be a playoff team does not mean that you can score 4 or 5. It means you can win low-scoring games. It's why I like Tampa always, because they can win games both ways. It's why I've always liked the Hurricanes in the playoffs last few years. And I got a feeling with that Pacioretty signing, I'm going to like them a hell of a lot more coming up here. But I'm not as high on Tkachuk as other people are, really. I mean, he brings that physical element. He brings that I can score, but also be a pest. But was he worth giving all that away? We'll find out, because to your point, they already have scoring on Florida. There's no denying that. But I really think they're going to realize this guy, he's not the guy for us. He brings that physicalness. He brings that trash talk and the edge to our team. But when you say we gave up Uyghur and Huberdeau for this guy, I think it'll be a shocker. What were your thoughts?
My initial thought, honestly, was the rich got richer, meaning offensively. But the more that I looked and I dug into what you were just talking about, everyone was laughing at Florida, but there has to be a method behind that madness. And as you said, the 2 expiring contracts, but outside looking in, and what happened to this Florida team, you got to go back to the Lightning series. I mean, they were just crushed. They couldn't go in there and beat those guys 6-5. And as you stated a few seconds ago, they weren't winning a 2-1, 3-2 game against that team. They just weren't, Vasilevsky, they weren't beating them. So initially, that is not the move that I would have been looking for, to say, hey, that was the missing piece why we weren't playing for the Stanley Cup.
And to get rid of one of your defensemen too. It's not only they just picked up Tkachuk, they got rid of one of their, and let's be honest, let me see here. Hold on, I'm going to look this up. How old is Mackenzie Weegar? Let's see here. He's 28 years old. Some defensemen, that's when they get into their prime. So it's shocking, but you know what? I love it. And let's just step aside from betting for a second. I love it as a hockey fan, because it was a big old FU, for lack of better words, to Calgary when those 2 guys wanted to walk away, and then they go ahead and make that splash. I say good for them, because if you're ownership, you're looking down at Treliving and saying, you're up. What's your move? 2 of your players just walked on you. 2 of your players just walked away. What are you going to do about it? So I think it's good stuff. I liked it. And realistically, what do you think about Tkachuk? Because I honestly think his brother's going to have a much better career than him.
Once Gaudreau was left the building, and then the rumors started splashing. I guess initially I would say it was an overreaction by Florida, saying, "Shit, we better get in there and we better, it's instead of a bidding war, let's overbid and then let's make our splash, and then let's make the splash and then work backwards." I like him as a player. I think he's good. I think he's going to fit very, very well with that team. But Florida didn't need that piece. If Florida added a Charlie McAvoy or something like that, I would have said, okay, now they get it. Now they get it. But they went exactly.
They got rid of a defenseman.
It's going to be interesting for sure. I love hockey talk, especially in July. I mean, the guys are out there golfing. They're probably golfing with Tuca somewhere. And, now that, we got a few more months before the Zambonis get on the ice. But, last week was special.
Jeff, that division is going to be, the Atlantic Division is going to be one to watch. Like, everyone can't stop talking about the Ottawa Senators, which is like good for them because, they're probably one of the least talked about teams in Canada, and they haven't been very good for that many years, or for a lot of years. But I really think they've done it the right way. They've built their team the right way. They've been patient with it. And now to bring in Giroux, which everyone thought would come eventually, but maybe not this year, back to where he's from. You take a look at obviously the Habs getting the number 1 overall pick and Slavkovsky and making a few moves that way and growing their prospect pool. And you look around with the Maple Leafs, as much as I like to have my fun with them, they keep on making these signings, $750,000, $1.2 million. They're in cap hell because of that John Tavares and Nylander and those contracts. But they keep finding a way to pick up these guys at $1 million that are going to be pretty good for them. So that division is going to be crazy. What are your thoughts on the Bruins going into this year? Because I think I told you a couple weeks ago when I did that podcast with Jimmy Murphy, he said by Thanksgiving, we'll know how bad they are.
Well,
and betting wise, let me ask you, betting wise, are we going to be able to cash some underdog tickets against them?
You know what? As bad as the talks are about the Red Sox right now, the Bruins are right there. Thank God for the Celtics, I should say. I'm not too high on the Patriots, so the fall is definitely going to be weird here. We're going to have probably no Red Sox in the playoffs. We're going to have a Patriot team at 500 at best. In limp the Bruins, new coach. Who's back, who's not back, the rumors, we fired the coach because he was too hard on our players. They didn't want to play for him. Therefore, I'm going to retire. No, I'm back now. We got a new coach. Outside looking in and just from the talks, it's not pretty here. It is not pretty. You're going to get some great prices on them. And they broke down the schedule. There's a couple schedules, spots in there in early November where the experts or so-called experts at 98.5 got the Bruins going at like 1-7 versus these teams.
It's gonna be telling, and I will say that I think that fading the Bruins is something that won't be maybe successful right away, but I think longevity wise throughout the first half of the season, especially when you're getting those good numbers against them, is the time to do it. By the time the second half of the season kicks in, they might be priced accordingly betting wise, but that first half of the season come November, maybe after they win a couple games, they maybe shouldn't in October, November might be that month where it's like, all right, this guy's still not back from surgery. This guy's still out. Goaltending problem, maybe. And the thing is, goaltending is their most solid position right now. And we still don't know how great it's going to be.
It's going to be interesting. I think Cassidy and the Knights come back early November. So I usually take the family, to the home game the day after Thanksgiving. I might have to bump it up a couple of weeks and get those tickets right behind the Knights bench.
You should. That's going to be awesome. And I look forward to seeing what happens with Vegas this year too, because like I said, their GM and ownership, they pretty much play, they pretend they're in a video game is what I've been calling it. I mean, they don't know what the word rebuild means. They don't know what the word patience means. They want to try and win every single year. And, the fact they gave up Pacioretty for a bag of pucks and some Gatorade, I think that's a little bit rough too. So we'll see how good they are this year.
All right. CFL. We got a game tonight. 4 games on the board. Just the eye test before we allow you to dig in. And you know something? I got beat to the punch here because I saw a number, and we've been talking now for 30 plus minutes, and it moved up a half point. The game tonight, Hamilton was 2.5 against Montreal, a team that you talk about all the time. Is now moved to Hamilton has now moved to a -3. It was 2.5 when I pulled up DraftKings Sportsbook today. BC is short 2-point favorite on the road at Saskatchewan. The game I'm really intrigued for you to break down. I think this is upset special, but I've been saying that for a couple of weeks. Winnipeg at Calgary. Winnipeg just a small 1.5-point favorite there. Yet I will just tell you this, sir. On the money line, Calgary's -115 and Winnipeg's now -105, which makes 0 sense. When you're going to give me +1.5 -1 so that line makes 0 sense, but I know you'll make that clear to me. And then the last one, Ottawa and Toronto -5.5. I think it's a good board this week, and I've been following your timeline. You've had some tough breaks. You're going to be busting out this week, so I'm excited to see how you break this board down.
Yeah, I was happy to get a winner to close out week 7. Week 8, like I said, this week, with the COVID stuff last week with Saskatchewan, they got their game pushed back just 1 day, so that way they had a little more time. And I was happy because the rotation numbers stayed the same, so I was able to keep my +6. So in the midst of all the bad beats I've had, and I promise I'm not complaining about this or that, losing by 10 points, wrong side loss. There had been a couple bad beats, but it was a nice feeling and refreshing to be able to keep that number and for my team to close at -2, 2.5, and for me to have a +6 ticket. That might have been the best CLV. Shout out to Dave Sherapan on that one that I've ever had in my life, because that was a nice feeling. But moving into this week, look, you talk about the game tonight, and first of all, I'll say this. I am never, ever going to just think that I'm never going to make a big play on an under in a Montreal game in probably a couple weeks. I mean, this is a team now that sits at 5-1 to the over on the year. They have no trouble putting up points on the board. It's their defense that's let them down quite a bit. Their special teams offense has been great. Special teams defense has been horrible. And, they're a team that, when you look at their matchup tonight against a team that has, first of all, not been able to put together a full game effort pretty much all season long, Jeff. That's the thing about them. If you are a fan if you are looking to bet on the Tiger Cats, you got to take the first half. It's like what I did for my big play 2 weeks ago, and they actually covered the first half and they lost the full game. This is a team that has blown leads to Edmonton, who you and I both liked together, and they were +7, end up losing outright in the second half to that one after having a double-digit lead. They blew a double-digit lead to Calgary in the second half. Calgary goes on and wins that one outright. And you take a look at Hamilton and really what their health status is right now. They're their number one offensive lineman out with an injury, placed on the injury list for the next 3 weeks, I believe. So they're already not going to be protected. Dane Evans has proven that he's not the best when he scrambles around. It's like I've said to you a bunch of times, and I actually saw on the East Coast Sports Investors TikTok that I was on there saying this about the Hamilton Tire Cats. They are not the same team as they were last year. So everybody comparing Masoli to Dane Evans, it's non-comparable because Evans does not have the same roster as Masoli had over the past couple of years. I look at a team like Montreal putting up 40 points and 30 points. They haven't had games where they've scored less than 25 points for the most part this year. I think they're going to get it done. I got the +3 is what I'm locked in at. And it's hard not to look towards the over here because of that trend from Montreal. But I don't know if I can trust, Hamilton's offense to explode enough to do that. I feel like they're going to try and, get things going on their defense because their defense actually hasn't been that bad. It's been a little bit of offensive troubles, but I think the play here is Montreal because you can't win games convincingly by just kicking field goals. And Hamilton hasn't been able to put together a good first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter all together. So it's a Thursday night. It's yet another underdog for me. As you know, I'm playing lots of dogs this year, and I think it'll start to level out a little bit. So that's where I'm looking for game one.
And don't forget to sprinkle a little pizza and beer money on the +125 then.
Absolutely. And looking at what we've seen from Hamilton, you might even be able to say you could get a better number in game. We've seen them collapse and blow games consistently. They score the first touchdown in the game. We're getting a better price, maybe, stuff like that. You don't want to predict in-game lines, but hey, people are creatures of habit. And right now, the habit for Hamilton is not being able to put together a full game performance.
Tomorrow, 9 p.m., BC at Saskatchewan. Currently, BC -2, -110, and under/over. The biggest one of the weekend, 49 and a hook, -110 both ways. Money line, BC -130, Saskatchewan +110.
Yeah, so look, I thought long and hard about this one. Really trying to convince myself why I shouldn't take BC here, and the more I looked at it, the more I realized the spot it is for them. I mean, they're off a lot of rest, and Saskatchewan's off a sort of a shorter week because of that rescheduled game, and now playing on a Friday. They still have several guys that are injured or suspended, guys that are recovering from COVID-19. And then, of course, their quarterback, Cody Fajardo, that has damaged ligaments in his MCL. And apparently he's playing with a brace on, or he was in practice with a brace on. He will apparently suit up after we saw a third stringer suit up last week and last Sunday for Saskatchewan. So I just look at it like this. They're getting a few guys back. They're getting, their usuals back. And I feel for the quarterback that came in for Saskatchewan because it's one thing to make your first CFL start, Jeff, but it's another thing to also have pretty much none of the regular receivers in there either, right? So not only do you have the chemistry with the team, they don't have much of the chemistry either. And the one receiver out there that is a usual first string guy, he got locked up by the defense of Toronto. He barely got the ball. So this number is short to me. And BC has actually played subpar and come down to earth a little bit over the last 2 weeks. So I feel like this could be a game for them where Nathan Rourke gets back here, gets back to life and shows what he can do as far as throwing goes. You put McLeod Bethel Thompson, who's the quarterback for Toronto, on a scale next to Nathan Rourke, and it's not even close. I'm sorry, but it's not even close. I mean, Bethel Thompson is good for at least one interception. If you gave me, I'll put it this way, you gave me a -200 prop any given week that Bethel Thompson was going to throw an interception, give me a max bet on that every single week, right? He's inconsistent. And did you watch any of that Argos game last week, Argos, Saskatchewan? That was the craziest game I've ever watched in my life. As far as, I'll tell you what, I had the +6, felt great about it. I had the first half spread for the Toronto Argonauts, and I lose that. because the coach decides to go for a 60-yard field goal. And of course, you can return the missed field goals for a touchdown. And they do that. They go for it on fourth and they turn the ball over on downs instead of kicking the field goal. At one point in the game, Toronto could have been up 17-0. Really. And a lot of the good things that happened for Saskatchewan was thanks to their defense. Really, not really their offense doing anything. Yeah, a strip sack, an interception, and stuff like that. But I just think overall, I think BC will have a little bit too much for Saskatchewan to be able to keep up. I think we'll see, of course, a better effort from Saskatchewan than we did last week. But I got to ask you, I mean, when you look at a quarterback's injury, whether it's college, NFL, or CFL, they're rushing someone to come back. This guy's already, I read it last week on the show or 2 weeks ago. I mean, he's already not been much of a mobile quarterback since week 2. I think he has the same amount of rushing yards since week 1 in the last 6 weeks. Right? I mean, that's got to be an issue getting this guy back. If he takes 1 or 2 sacks, do you think this guy's going to be ready to leave the pocket to make a throw? I almost genuinely believe that they would be better off without him this week. I think it's kind of a bold take because he's a good quarterback, but do you want an experienced guy that's banged up, or do you want your second stringer that doesn't have much experience?
And that basically, when you're going in, say, still injured or not 100%, and you're not as mobile as you used to be, what you're going to do, especially, is when the pocket starts to collapse, you're just going to be getting rid of it a lot sooner than waiting that extra half second for a wide receiver to break one way or the other and to potentially complete the pass and get the first down. So a little sense of urgency, but again, that's all it takes is one blitz and thanks for playing, and then in comes the backup already.
Yeah, we'll see. And also, BC's defense hasn't been too bad either, because if you look at really the teams they've played and the teams that have done well against them, it's good teams in the league. Like a team like Winnipeg put 40 on them, but are we going to really, are we going to look down upon BC for allowing Winnipeg, the best team in the league, to do that? I don't think so. And one thing I think people are kind of not realizing, I'll just take a look at here to make sure I get the scores right. The teams that the Argos have played this year, and the West has statistically dominated the East, and the actual only team that's lost to an Eastern Conference opponent in the West are Saskatchewan. You look at who they've played. They've played Toronto twice and lost both those. They beat up on the Alouettes, which is a subpar Eastern Conference team. And they've played the Red Blacks, who's still a bottom of the East type of team. So really, they haven't had much competition all year long. They beat the Elks 26, put out 26 points on them, but the Elks, as you and I know, are only a good team when you're getting 7 points. So really, this is their toughest task of the year so far, and they still have several guys out. So I was a bit confused by number at first, and you had to do the smell test to make sure there wasn't anything fishy going on. But I think that the number was the way it is because the oddsmakers believe they're getting healthier. They're playing at Mosaic Stadium, a place that's tough to lose in if you're the home team. But I think BC has too much to offer.
Are you taking the -2 or are you going to lay the 130?
I'm on the money line. Just in the CFL, there's so many weird scores. I'm willing to do it with the money line.
Saturday, 7:30 p.m. I think I'll say it. I think it's the game of the weekend. Winnipeg at Calgary. Winnipeg opens up -1.5 plus 100. You can grab Calgary +1.5 -120, and under/over of 46 and a hook. And here again, the money lines, it doesn't make any sense. Calgary is the favorite in the money line -115, and Winnipeg -105.
Yeah, look, I'll agree with you that it's the game of the week, 100%. To update people on the moves here, Winnipeg opened up as +1.5 dogs, and that was super, super early in the week at some books, and now seeing them as favorites here. The thing is, I wanted to take Calgary here because something kind of interesting. Bo Levi Mitchell has never lost back-to-back games in his career to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And a lot of stats point towards it, but really, is this a team you want to bet against right now? That's what I asked myself. Is this a really team? I haven't bet on them enough this year. So do I want to go ahead and bet against them? I'm disappointed in myself for not betting on them enough, because I always thought they were laying too many points and they got it done. I like the under in this spot, Jeff. I see injuries. I see COVID for Calgary right now. Kadeem Carey, a top 3 running back in the CFL right now. He won't be in the lineup for Calgary, but their defense is still pretty good. They're missing a linebacker. He's on the COVID list, but I still think their defense is respectable. And Winnipeg, like I said multiple times, besides that BC game, we'll scratch that BC game, all right? They're a team that I don't think could care less about, hey, we blew out this team. We put up 40 on this team. They care more about how many points they limit their opponent to. I remember what I used to do. I used to work for a university covering college basketball. And I was the play-by-play guy. And I was where I sat was right next to a head coach of the home team. They didn't care about the amount of points they put up as much as they cared about how many points they gave up. Their goal was to allow, at the very max, 80 points to their opponent. That was like the very max they wanted to allow. The coach would be furious if they went over that. It reminds me of Winnipeg because they just want to shut down their opponents, utilize their run game, and win, whether it's 17-10 or whether it's 40-25. They don't care how they win. So were you thinking that you wanted to play the dog this week? And that's kind of definitely contrarian. And I know you always get me on these contrarian plays, and I love it. I'm just a little bit scared off because I saw the Calgary injuries and stuff like that, which is why I lean towards the under here.
Well, I always say that they're listening, and I know they're listening because now they just, as we were speaking, changed Calgary to -110 and Winnipeg to -110.
Wow.
They're listening. I told you every time they're listening.
I believe it. And that's the thing. Good teams find ways to win. Good teams have depth. If I'm betting on this game money line wise, I probably would take Winnipeg. But going into the week, I wanted to take Calgary. But now that a couple guys are out, I think it needs a full group effort. If I'm betting against Winnipeg, I want my opponent to be healthy as can be, coming in on a good note, coming in rested, coming in with good quotes in the locker room. And when you got a top 3 running back in the league not in for you, it's a little bit worrisome for me. But hey, this is probably the lowest total on the board, I think, and I'm looking towards the under.
Yes, you are correct. That is the lowest total. So we'll see which way the number does go. Actually, and again, they're listening. Winnipeg now -1, Calgary +1.
Okay.
So Andrew McInnis moves lines.
Just placing monster bets while we're on the show together. Just monster bets. So were you thinking Calgary?
I was thinking Calgary. I definitely was thinking Calgary.
Like I said, I was with you at the start of the week. That's where I wanted to go at the start of the week, but I ended up kind of changing towards the under.
This is a classic, Andrew. This is not the first week you've moved lines. So DraftKings, I know you're listening. Hey, Julian, if you're listening here, it's a shout out. He was on the show last night with me and Anthony, so I got to give him a little hassle. He was the co-host the night before. He goes, yeah, I got to go into Anthony's basement in his studio, yet you guys are in a suite in Hyannis and Cape Cod, Mass. Go figure.
Yeah, I saw the picture you posted. It looked really nice. It was cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Sunday, final game, 5:00, Ottawa at Toronto. Toronto -5.5, under over 47 and a hook, both at -110. Money line, Toronto -210, Ottawa +180. I kind of have a feeling where you're going to go here, but I won't spill the beans.
Well, you know I've been a dog player all year long, and I'm not giving up on it. I'm waiting until it levels out because favorites have done okay so far this year in the CFL, and it's one of those things where there's two ways you can look at something, and I'll compare it to a different sport. In the NBA, shot selection. Let's say the advanced stats said that this team took a lot of really good shots. They just missed them, and that's what happens in a sport like basketball. Open three-pointers missed, free throw percentage was low. They'll fix that up the next week, right? Same thing with the NHL. This team had 42 shots, ran into a hot goaltender. Star players couldn't finish. Next game, they'll get it going. But in football, I don't look at it that way when I handicap. I look at it like this. They made boneheaded moves. Why would I be surprised if they do it again? McLeod Bethel Thompson proved that he couldn't, let's be honest here. They should have demolished Saskatchewan last week. It shouldn't even have been close. They had to reschedule a game because there were so many injuries and players on COVID. There was only one receiver on Saskatchewan last week that was a normal first string guy. And the quarterback went I think 13 for 26 or something crazy like that. Well, not horrible, but I mean, you look at those numbers and you think to yourself, like Saskatchewan, Toronto, 2 interceptions, a turnover on downs on 4, the strip sack against them. They're just not a team I want to lay points with, really. That many points, especially. I would rather be getting points with them. And I said at the start of the year that I think that this is the point. We're gonna kind of turn the page here and think that we could start making some money on the Ottawa Red Blacks. They're a team that I've said, you know what? They struggle in the red zone. There's no doubt about it, Jeff. Their defense has actually gotten better. And if they can, keep things tight, keep things close, I believe this game is decided by a field goal. And the talent's been there for Ottawa. They just haven't been able to connect in the red zone. The amount of times they get there and have to settle for a field goal, or the amount of times they've had to punt because they have a great play on first down and then don't get it done on second. I like the dog. So, I guess the only favorite I really like this week are the Lions, I guess. But, when I look at this game, I just think that this could be one of those combos where we see Toronto win and Ottawa cover. Really believe it. But obviously, I'm not coming in with that mindset. I want the outright dog to get it done for me after what I saw last week. But, I'll take the dog this week here.
This has the blueprint of one of those. Toronto gets out, wins the first half, and in comes Ottawa with the either backdoor cover or outright win.
Yeah. The coaching has been just ridiculous. I mean, I hate to make puns because I'm not really someone that makes those type of jokes, but their coach is dim-witty. What? He's a dim-witty. Like he's stupid. He makes bad decisions. And so, for example, Andrew Harris is trying to break the record for getting to 10,000 yards for a Canadian running back. Do you know how many times? What was the under-over? The broadcast was trying to tell us that last week. Probably 15 and a half times. It seemed to me like Toronto cared more about getting him that milestone than they cared about winning the game. They went to him 12 times in a row, it feels like. And then when it was they decided to go for it on fourth down, they gave it to him again. I mean, if you're the defensive coordinator last week for Saskatchewan, you're thanking whoever's above because you knew what was going to happen. It was the most predictable thing ever. So Toronto has weapons, but I don't think they utilize it properly. And a guy like Brandon Banks that will have a 100-yard performance one week and a 35-yard performance the next, it's not reliable. So anytime Toronto wins a game this year, until they can show me some consistency, and I still, to be honest with you, I think there's value on them at 7-1, just because that East division is so crappy, really. But I don't think they can blow anybody out. So we'll see what happens here. But I think Ottawa's ready for a good performance.
I 100%.
And that could be worth a money line play, really, because that that number is pretty good. And like you said, it could be a second half performance there where we get it done and the back door starts to happen.
I agree. I looked at that and I was like, I had already had that penciled in. I'm like, I know where Andrew's going here. I know where you're going.
I promise you, there's going to be a day where I come in here and just say I like every favorite. But I'm an underdog player in the CFL, as you know.
No, it's a smart way to go too. The crawl has been working the whole time at McInnis Picks, at Wager Talk, at Sports Mayflower. Jump on over to YouTube, Mayflower Sports. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. Tell a friend too. Always ECSI 15 promo code. Get $15 off Andrew's best CFL bets. Andrew, tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, just shoot a follow at McInnis Picks on Twitter. Still trying to grow the Twitter and always interacting with people. Give us a follow on our Twitter account, Puck Time, if you can, at Puck Time WT. That's our hockey podcast I do during the hockey season with Wager Talk, and we're giving out shirts, we're giving out hoodies, and we're gonna start building up already with our even our World Junior stuff. Like I'm gonna be talking here with Jeff in a month here, and all kinds of different future bets and win totals and all that good stuff. So all my CFL content, I've got UFC picks coming this weekend and a lot more. So look forward to really enjoying one more week of really relaxation. And then it's full on into, hardcore studying and hardcore preparation. I got the magazines out now, Jeff. I'm in that part of my summer where I've got the NFL magazines out. So I'm at the beach. I'm relaxing, but I'm still quote for quote studying, but we're not writing notes quite yet. We're just reading. We're studying up, if so to speak.
You got the Ray-Bans on with the Phil Steele magazine and the beverage on the left, and you're still sightseeing, as I should say, on the beach as well.
Exactly. Well, that's why you got to have the sunglasses on for sure.
The dark ones, so you don't get hit by the bride.
Exactly. But hey, I mean, that's what it's all about, really. This part of the summer is like I'm handicapping the CFL, I'm handicapping MLB. We've got thank goodness for UFC every single week or every second week, but that's fun to handicap, slowly build the bankroll. With that, I don't care if it's a +1 unit or a +5 unit. If we can make some money with the UFC, we'll do that. So, but trying to enjoy myself, to be honest with you, Jeff, having a good summer. I'm staying busy, pretty much traveling to a beach every weekend. But come August, like I said, that'll be kind of, flip the switch a little bit, about 7 days time. Obviously, August is coming up here, but then it's NFL and college football prep. And like I said last week, I'm hoping to have you on a show that I'm starting up in September. I can't guarantee we'll have the fancy background and all that cool stuff that you have going on, but we'll try and get it going.
I can't wait. I got the schedule wide open. A lot of people knocking on the doors, but I'm stiff arming them till we get a time settled, and I can't wait for that. So next week, you only got 6 days to prepare, as we're on Thursday this week. We'll grab you back on Wednesday. Yeah. We want to make sure, obviously, you enjoy the weekend. You got a full slate of CFL, pup time, beach time, cottage time, bride time, and we can't wait to get back with you next week, my brother.
Yeah, we gotta cash a bunch of tickets here in the CFL this year to save up for that ring. That's what it's all about. That's dedicated for the bankroll.
That's right. Happy life, happy wife. Remember that. Okay.
Yes, sir. Of course.
From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from the one and only Andrew McInnis at Wager Talk, at McInnis Picks. We thank everyone that watched and listened. We had an amazing show. We hit the overtimes too today, but that's okay. So
cashed it.
Yes, we broke down a lot of good stuff. And of course, we got 4 tickets here for the CFL. So always remember this, peeps. If you are investing or wagering today, please do it responsibly. If you do have a problem, pick up the phone. There's an 800 number. Ask for help. Why? Myself and Andrew care. We want to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, through 2022 and beyond. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, Andrew McInnis and McInnis Picks, we wish everyone a blessed day. have some fun, cash some tickets. I personally will be back in 1 hour and 11 minutes with Zaid Hussein talking UFC. Will the Lioness get her belt back? Or will Miss Pena say, nah, it's time to retire like Ronda? See you soon.